I'm completely shocked with the reaction to this film online, because I had a lot of fun with the Super Mario Galaxy movie. With the internet being the internet, you'll see a lot of harsh and inflammatory takes about this film, a lot of which seem to be coming from critics, and a lot about Chris Pratt. The film debuted with a lower Rotten Tomatoes score than the first film, and a strong community reaction towards the main man voicing Mario. I'm here to tell you that this film is good, and definitely worth your time seeing. Not that critic reviews stopped people the last time. The first act of the film is stellar, incredibly well paced, moving from scene to scene with a blissful energy. With that, a lot of my enjoyment of this film came from how colourful it was. Mario as an IP has always been bright and filled with wonderful visuals, and the film doesn't disappoint. It's just a treat to soak in all those colours, and with the planet-hopping nature of the film, they get the opportunity for a lot of variety across the colour spectrum. Another strength of the Mario IP is the music. All of the source music is so iconic, especially the orchestral themes from Galaxy, and it's hard not to feel something when hearing them in this film. The original music composed for this film fits it well. A part I particularly enjoyed was the orchestral rendition of the underground theme. It would be near impossible to mess up the music for a Mario adaptation. It's not a particularly plot-heavy film, a journey from place to place to save the princess. We'll talk more about specifics when I'm ready to spoil the film, but a criticism I could see about this is it feels very side-questy. And while that didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie, I can see how it could for some. Where that did become an issue for me is just at the end of the second act, where they have the means to go to the final sequence, but are interrupted and crash land on a planet. This is the only time in the film I didn't feel like a sequence was necessary, and we could have went straight to the final battle without this, and I don't think much would have changed. I'll also say that the film is heavy on flashbacks as a form of conveying exposition, and while they're never crazy long, I think the total amount of them is too high, and would have preferred a different method of conveying that information. Hey, just wanted to stop you for a second and ask if you could subscribe and like the video. I put a lot of work into my other videos, and they aren't getting as much traction as I'd like, so if you have time after this video, I'd appreciate if you could check them out. Like my 2.5 hour breakdown called I Made a TV Show. It breaks down my 5-part comedy crime miniseries Midlands Mayhem, which you can watch all 5 episodes for free right now on midlandsmayhem.com. Anyway, back to the video. Performances across the board are good, with the standouts being the always entertaining Jack Black and Benny Safdie, putting in a compelling and villainous performance as Bowser Jr., with the right amount of tact to still come across as childlike. Also, let's not forget the film's Oscar-worthy performance of Donald Glover as Yoshi. Truly a generational performance, and I think we're about to see the first win for Best Supporting Actor go to an animated film this year with his performance. Jokes aside, I do love Yoshi in this film. He provides a lot of great humor and was wonderful bouncing off the main cast. Also, the voices for the other Toads in this film got me. Not sure why, I just think they're really funny. Brie Larson, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Charlie Day all do fun performances as their respective characters. But it's probably time to talk about the Chris Pratt in the room. I'm gonna say it, I like Chris Pratt's performance in this movie. I saw a post a couple days ago being incredibly harsh towards him because he doesn't go big in this film, and should step down for another actor who wants to try. The way this guy talked about the film, it made me think that Chris Pratt is just going to be boring and completely monotone, which is not the case at all. I think there is just enough silliness in his voice as Mario, but not so much as to overplay it to the detriment of the rest of the characters. Mario being less, for a lack of a better word, big than the rest of the cast is perfectly fine, as he's supposed to contrast with the other characters. The reason that some of those other performances work well is how they contrast to Mario. There's a total of one line read that was questionable, when he says, "Mamma mia!" Sorry, I had to do it. Even finding that questionable might be a stretch, because it works in the context of the film, and the reference may be what threw me off. Chris Pratt, however, isn't doing himself any favors. There's this tweet with him discussing how he shouldn't do the Mamma Mia with an Italian accent, and Chris buddy, I need you to shut up. You do know what the perception of you around this film is, right? My idea would be that a lot of the audience want the original, high-pitched, silly voice that Charles Martinet does for Mario to be his voice for the entire film. I'm gonna push back and say that would be incredibly annoying for a whole film's runtime. I'm not saying that Charles Martinet couldn't do a great Mario voice that's more toned down and suited to delivering dialogue. I'm almost certain he could. I just think that the criticism towards Chris Pratt in this film is overblown and disingenuous. But that's the way of the internet. Every take has to be out of 10 to get traction, and that's why Donald Glover wins Best Leading Actor in 2027. Let's go! How is it in comparison to the game? Well, they're quite a lot different, I'd say. While sharing a title and some of the musical motifs, I don't think the film was ever intending to go for a direct adaptation of Galaxy. And if it did, I think it would have been incredibly misguided. The game had a lonely and moody atmosphere. You really felt the cold of outer space, drifting through the stars. That, in contrast with the vibrancy and colour of some of the planets, with the gorgeous orchestral theme, gave the game an experience that would only work in a game. Moving from game to film, you lose that ability to have a strong control of the atmosphere. Anyone who has seen the Silent Hill films should know what I mean. The Super Mario Galaxy movie doesn't have those quieter moments, and commits to the fast-paced family fun. I can understand being disappointed that it isn't like the game, but I had no illusions that it would, and in my opinion, if it tried, it probably would have failed. Speaking of the games, there's tons of references to them throughout. Obviously the power-ups that the characters use, but there's also many references to other Nintendo franchises. It brought up the question for me if the film is too reference-heavy, and if I wasn't familiar with them, would it detract from my experience? I'm gonna say I don't think so, as they're either quick gags / character appearances that would work perfectly well if you weren't familiar with them, or in the case of a certain character, serve their own purpose within the film. If you don't want any spoilers, it's time to skip ahead now. But the character, which has appeared in marketing for the film that I'm referring to, is Fox McCloud. Aside from being a weird choice considering there hasn't been a Star Fox game since the poorly received Wii U entry, Fox works perfectly well as an isolated character in this film. The crew needs a pilot, and what better one to choose than Fox? My question around his inclusion is, was it necessary to flashback to tell us his backstory? This is what I was talking about when I said the film was flashback heavy. I'm not entirely sure the film needed to explain him, and while I understand they're likely setting up for a Star Fox film, and the flashbacks contain gorgeous different animation styles to the rest of the movie, it makes me reconsider if my nostalgia is affecting my opinion. Although I did love the interaction where you're set up to think that Mario and Fox will be rivals, but they're actually just best friends on sight. When the R-Wing crashes onto a random planet, and we have Mario and Luigi turn into babies, is when I feel the film loses a bit of its energy. Did we really need that dinosaur chase sequence? I don't think so, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have enjoyable moments throughout it. I love the joke about them constantly picking up dinosaurs. What keeps this movie only being good, and prevents it from being great, is how it handles character arcs in the film. Or in better words, how it doesn't have an overly satisfying one. The most we have is Mario building up the courage to ask Peach on a date, or at least engage her romantically. And that does have a little satisfaction at the end of the film. Or there's Rosalina and Peach reconnecting as sisters, but neither have enough build-up to provide a strong emotional catharsis. Without a satisfying character arc, the film is never going to hit as hard or stick with you as long as some other films do. Take for example Megamind. The reason that the film is so satisfying is Megamind has to fully change as a character to overcome Titan. His growth and journey is what makes it so satisfying at the end when he wins. Mario doesn't have that, and I understand that can be difficult with a character like Mario that doesn't have a strong personality. Which is why they should have tried to go for that with Bowser Jr. or another character in the film. For whatever sequel comes next, they should give the real emotional change to a separate character, if they want to keep Mario the way he's been portrayed in these two films. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the problem with modern movies because I enjoyed this. I endeavored to look through the critic reviews and see what the prevailing issue they have is, because this film has a much lower critic score than I think it should. Am I doing the same thing that Marvel fans do when someone is disappointed with the newest entry to the MCU? Am I just defending a movie because I enjoyed it in the moment and I didn't critically analyze the film? Reading these reviews, there are two primary issues. That the film has a light plot, and that the film is playing it too safe, thus making it feel soulless. I imagine that the complaints come from a lack of a strong character arc from many of our central characters in the movie. While I do agree that the film could have taken more risks, that by no means makes it soulless. I think it really comes down to what you appreciate in a film. I can imagine that if your job is to watch every single movie that comes out, you want to be surprised and have a script that takes some risks. But if what you like in a film is visuals, then the way this movie looks will make the difference for you. Many of the positive reviews, and even the negative ones, cite the gorgeous look. That's what set it apart for me. It shows bright and striking visuals, and it made me laugh. I will say that anyone defending this film who uses the argument, "It's only a kids movie, what did you expect?" should kindly exit film discourse and return when they're ready to engage properly. Even though I mostly disagree with this review, William Bibany from The Wrap puts it best. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is for children. Nobody thinks otherwise. So if anyone was already typing, "What did you expect, Citizen Kane?" then I can stop you right there. Children can enjoy slop. I should know. I grew up on Drek like the Care Bears movie and GoBot's Battle of the Rock Lords. That doesn't mean kids wouldn't also appreciate a proper meal. Nobody complains when a kids movie is great. I disagree that this movie is slop, or that it isn't even a fulfilling film for adults, but my argument is not, it's a kids movie, what did you expect? My argument is that the stunning visuals, well-timed jokes, performances, gorgeous sound effects and music make up for what it lacks in the script. If there's anything that I can say about this film, it's that I implore you to go see it in cinemas. You're never going to enjoy it as much as you will there. Its strong elements are enhanced so much by the cinema experience, and if you wait to catch it at home with inferior technology, you'll be disappointed. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is a fun time, and it's the type of thing cinemas were made for.